In a way, to ask the question, where did Marlo come from, is redundant, because we didn't see the rise of the Barksdales or Prop Joe either. For all we know, their rise may have been just as questionably quick. This is the streets, people come and go. In short though, Marlo was an opportunist who seized on the hand he was dealt with. Between Avon being locked up and String not wanting to be beefing, the corners were there for the taking. Then Avon comes out and there's a turf war. Avon gets locked up, Marlo consolidates power, nobody's willing to go to war with him, so they step off or take his package. Having a generation of cold, disciplined killers like Chris, Snoop and Monk, far more effective than, say, Eggy Mule or Peacock, that don't hurt either. Avon getting banged up left a power vacuum. To use an Iraq war metaphor, of which there are many in Season 3, the cops taking out Avon was like the US taking out Saddam, but in his place, they left a power vacuum. Marlo is the Iraqi insurgency that emerges. But this still doesn't explain Marlo coming out of nowhere in Season 3 and being strong enough to take on Avon initially. Well, we need to reconfigure the way we think about the show. Just because we focus on the Barksdales doesn't mean other things aren't happening off screen. Marlo would have been building his crew off screen, perhaps during Season 1 and 2 even, but our focus was on the Barksdales. Avon occupied the towers and the pit, with Marlo taking over corners. Corners which the Barksdales wouldn't have had interest in. When the towers get demolished, all of a sudden, this boy Marlo now has all the best real estate. The fact that Marlo has these corners already means he has the muscle to defend them from other smaller crews, and even from the Barksdales, as Stringer didn't care much at this time because he was all about product, not territory, but not Avon, who comes out of prison and wants his corners. As he says, let's see who has the bigger war chest. And Marlo doesn't have the connections, the money or grenades that Avon has, who can bring in new soldiers like Slim. Marlo was losing the war, as suggested by Avon being about to get the drop on him. But the cops swoop in, the Barksdales collapse, Stringer dies, and Marlo is free to swoop in and take it all. Is it also possible that the Barksdales weren't as sharp as they used to be? Sure, they worked hard to take the towers back in the day, but they then ran the towers with impunity. All of a sudden, the towers come down and the Barksdales are forced back on the street, where vicious animals like Marlo have been ploughing their trade and sharpening their teeth. Avon has also lost a lot of capable muscle, and he himself is on the back foot, starting off Season 3 in prison, losing his Dominican drug supplier, having to look for prime real estate, which Marlo already has. Barksdale weak right now, as Marlo says. He smelled opportunity. It's like the meeting Stringer had with him. He isn't buying Stringer's sales pitch at all. In the previous episode, Marlo's crew beat up a Barksdale corner, and now Stringer is coming to him talking about a deal? He smells weakness, and thus tells his people to tool up. Not to mention the game was becoming domesticized in a manner of speaking, what with the co-op becoming more civilized. With Marlo, it was like a wild tiger entering a cage where the rest of the animals had been bred in captivity. Let's not forget, the Barksdales controlled the towers and the low-rises with some corners here and there, but they didn't control the entirety of West Side. There is more territory, more corners to go around, scraps for other crews to fight over and feed off. And this is where Marlo would have gotten his start, in the dirty, difficult streets on the ground level. The Barksdales had to expand and take more territory once the towers came down, but they were somewhat removed from that world for a while, not realizing what was going on, that someone was already occupying the main corners. So while Season 1 and 2 are happening and we only see the Barksdales up in them towers, it could easily be that Marlo is already seizing power on the street. When Avon comes back, he figured he could run off the young'uns, but didn't figure on Marlo hedging his bets that Avon is weak right now and he is strong, so it's now or never. The only reason the two crews even beefed in the first place is because of the towers coming down and Avon wanting real estate. Who knows how quickly and effectively Marlo rose behind the scenes, how long he was taking out competition at his own respective level, learning his trade, putting bodies in vacants before we meet him in Season 3. And Marlo's trajectory only goes in one direction in the show, catching the domesticated OGs by surprise, and before anybody can do anything about it, he becomes too big of a force to deal with. Marlo was not built for longevity. He was always going to get killed or found out in the end. Lester even knew about the bodies in the vacants but wasn't allowed to open the doors up. As quickly as he rose, he fell within a few episodes. I wonder if he cares though. When he's talking with his bank, Winston says that the graveyard is full of people who wore the crown, and Marlo replies, the point is, they wore it. Can we talk a bit how lucky Marlo was? He was about to be blown away by Avon's crew before the cops arrived. I wonder how long Marlo would have lasted if Avon took him seriously. If you remember, he was initially dismissive and shocked that an unconnected guy had taken so much territory.